Hello, YouTube. Welcome to another episode of IndieCent Exposure, the show where we try to discover what it's like making indie games. My name is Isaac, here with my co-host James, and today's guests are Charlie and Samuel. How are you guys going?
Thank you. We're going very good.
That's great to hear.
Thanks for having us, really.
Yeah. Now, today we are going to try and get the inside story behind your game, Steel Salvo. Let's get into it, James.
Alright, straight into the tutorial, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this is sort of a Japanese kaiju mecha-inspired shoot-'em-up, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a first-person shooter, very mech-inspired. Like we've taken inspiration from most big mecha games, Titanfall, and also like older Gundam stuff, Zone of the Enders, that kind of stuff. And so the idea was we wanted to. These games are usually more like a third-person kind of idea, and we wanted to transpose that to a first-person game because the idea seemed very like exciting to us.
So I kind of think that one of the reasons why maybe these games are always third person is because with such abrupt movement, it can instill a sense of sickening, like motion sickness. Did you get any of that through feedback or your own play?
We've had some. I mean, we've had to give a lot of thought to like how the camera would move and that kind of stuff. So you'll notice that there's a fair amount of camera bob. And also, like when you do dashes and that kind of stuff, there's a big camera movement. And so, the challenge with the movement of the player was to give that idea of moving in a big mech while not making it too like making the action still be readable, you know. So yeah, that was definitely a challenge, but I wouldn't say that we struggled too much with it.
Right, so that was a problem, but you anticipated it and you designed around it.
Yeah, I mean, when you make a mech game in first person, it's like the most basic questions that come to mind are, okay, how are we gonna make these problems disappear, you know?
Alright, time to do what you do best. Get ready for drop-off.
Are these the two weapons that you had from the beginning, or did you want to have multiple weapons and these are the two that came out?
We started out brainstorming because we were not the only two people working on the game. We were a team of 7 people. We couldn't make such a big game that we could have like many different loadouts. So we tried to have a kind of more multi-purpose set of weapons. I remember we spent like an entire evening, like the whole team, getting together and like thinking, well, how do we want this weapon to feel, and how many hits does this enemy takes from this weapon to die, and some arguments with, I don't know, the rockets should feel like firing multiple rockets and then all of them kill the enemy, and some people were like, oh no, I just want one rocket that kills instantly the enemy. And
It's also interesting because you can change the value of the health of the enemies, but you could also change the damage of guns, and so there's a lot of knobs that need tweaking. Did you have a dedicated designer whose job it was to veto on issues like these?
That's the difficult part. We're the whole team, the whole core team, I would say. The whole team is designers. We're all designers. That's our job. So it was really hard because we couldn't bring ourselves to have like one person that has the veto on that kind of stuff, and that actually, you know, it slows down part of the process. It definitely does. But we did have some people that were like designated to, oh, that's the level design person, that's the visuals person, that kind of stuff. And so that was the most difficult part, the balancing of the weapons, the movements, that kind of stuff, because everybody has their own version of what would work best.
Right.
Especially when you got a game that has like 3 different, like 2 different movement speeds, 3 jump heights, 2 weapons that have different damage based on their, like even the right weapon has different damage based on if you're holding it down or if you're firing it bullet by bullet. So there's lots. Actually, you're right. There's a ton of knobs that need turning. By the way, the game was actually made in a very short time frame. This game was made in 6 weeks plus like 2 or 3 weeks of polish, so like 2 months by a team of 7 people. And so we've had to like take tons of shortcuts, and we've had to think up like solutions to make the game easy to make in a short period of time.
Right. Was this made for like a game jam, or what was your deadline?
No, so yeah, we're all we're a team of 7 game designers, and we're all students at a game design school. And so this was, like, to begin with, it was a school project that we kind of expanded upon. So we had very tight deadlines, and then we just tried and make it good for Steam. So yeah, as you can see, the game is really short on content, and it's evident that it's because we had only like a really limited time to make it.
So you mentioned shortcuts before. What sort of shortcuts did you have to take?
There's kind of basic stuff, like when you look at the enemies, there's really not that much texture work. It's really flat colors, which works with the aesthetic. And yeah, there's only 3 types of enemies, so we kind of mix and matching the different encounters.
Yeah, so there is that, and also the whole style, I think, is mostly based on a shortcut, which is cell shading, that kind of stuff. It really helped us not having to make tons of texture maps that you usually use for realistic results.
Soldier, you're gonna
One thing you might have noticed as well is that we really have like fully voiced characters, and it is something that we're kind of proud of. I mean, at least I am, because it was kind of like it's a lot of work to have voiced characters in your game that don't sound like shit, and yeah. So I just wanted to shout out our voice actors, which did an amazing job, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask more about that. How were the voice actors when you approached them?
Okay, so this is actually a cool question, because most of them are actually YouTubers as well. And I knew some of them from like a friend's server, and so we just like we shooted a whole "we need voice actors, please anyone reach out," because we were like really starved in time. And at this point, we actually didn't even know really what the characters were supposed to say or do in the whole game, because the characters, you might have seen when playing that really fill functions. The mechanic with the blue hair is like the tutorial person, and also like the big guy with green glasses is like here to tell you about your objectives. So they're really there they're really there to fill functions. So we only had those basic outlines, and so the voice actors came in and they gave them way more soul than I had initially planned or thought they would.
Okay,
so yeah, that was really cool.
Sort of the NPC design could almost be accredited to the voice actors themselves. Did that annoy you at all? Like, did you
Definitely not.
Well, like, did you ever have an idea for a character and then voice actor goes a little bit a different way, and you're like, okay.
I think most of the time I mean, I would say all the time, the suggestions that they gave were really good. There's even a time where like the guy that plays the commander actually had an idea to like put in some Easter egg where when you died he would say like references to other MECH games, such as like, oh no, we're losing, call the Enders on Mars or something. And so that was a good idea. We didn't and even if it didn't make it into the game, it actually made it into the Steam integration, because the achievements all are named after like references that he gave to me while we were making the voice thing. So yeah, No, I think the voice actors did an amazing job, and I really think they elevate the game a lot for me.
Right. So we talked a little bit about the limitations of your time. Was there something you had in from the beginning that you thought was within your scope, but you had to cut eventually?
I'm gonna say that's a joke answer, but you can see that there's a small rabbit in the upper right of the screen, and we wanted to be physics based. We wanted it to like jiggle around when you moved, and we thought it was a really good feedback of like how fast you're moving, that kind of stuff. And right now it's faked because when we put in the rabbit, it literally exploded all over the place.
Now that you've pointed it out, I can't stop noticing how it disobeys physics now.
Yeah,
It does.
Samuel started out actually putting like physics on the bones because it's rigged to look well, like it's moving like
Like a real thing.
Yeah, like a real thing. So yeah, it started out like with physics, but due to the scale of it and how the mech moves and the camera and everything, it never like either it exploded or it didn't move enough. So what I ended up doing is basically having to calculate the velocity of the at the point where it's attached, and then use that to drive animations on the rabbit. So nothing's really physical. It's really just faked. And
calculations.
Yeah, I think the actual code for the movement of a rabbit is actually more complicated than what we had for the player's movement.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And so you might be wondering why did we spend so much time working on that rabbit when we could have been working on like making the overall game better. And so the answer to that is that sometimes when you're making a game like where like you have so many features and that kind of stuff, you're working on it for like 10 hours at a time, and at some point you're like, oh, I can't see that turret code anymore. I have to do something else. What can we do? Oh, how about we put a rabbit in the game? That's a great idea. We're doing it.
It's just you wanted to work on a different part of the game.
Yeah, and have something that was just, you know, a bit like just a fun feature that we could work on, which was not one of the big things that gave us problems.
Yeah, I remember just I modeled it like I wasn't sure if we'd have it in the game, so I just modeled it, and then Samuel tried it and he said it didn't work, so I thought maybe I'll try doing it, but really just if I have the time. And like I ended up thinking, come on, I've modeled it, I might as well try to make it work, and there went my
You had a sunken cost to it.
Yeah, a cost in sleep time.
Yeah, I think
You're gonna have to hurry.
I ended up working on it like until 3 a.m. or something.
If nothing is done about them, they'll
James, do you have any feedback after having played the game a bit? Like, what's the most annoying bit for you?
The most annoying bit, bullets gone through walls.
Yes.
Yeah, why does that?
I'm sure you're
So
addressing that.
Charlie, do you want to go?
It's your fault.
It's my fault. It's 100% my fault. I won't lie. I'm hoping maybe this can be fixed before the launch, which is like in 2 days. So,
Right.
I'm not saying it's gonna be fixed. I'm not. Well, sometimes you have to take a break, okay? No, I'm saying maybe it'll be fixed. We almost didn't feel like it's, you know, sometimes your perception is really different when you're the person making the game, and there are problems that you don't see because they've been here all along. And so this is one of those problems that has sneaked its way through the whole development thing. And yeah, we should definitely fix it, especially in our hard mode. It's really frustrating.
Right, so it was kind of constantly on your radar, but just below another problem that you wanted to fix first.
Yeah, we've
I think we didn't actually have a lot of cover on the test map we had, so that might be one of the reasons. I think we had just one block and the floor,
Yeah.
and so
That's it. That's it. Because in our testing levels, there's almost nowhere that the bullets could go through, so you don't see it because you're testing on a map that doesn't have walls.
Rough.
So that makes sense. And there was also a point, like 2 days ago, the player could still shoot through walls as well, and fixing that put in a whole slew of other issues. So sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I'll fix it. It's easy, and then it makes the whole thing way broken.
You mentioned that you've got all these projects from your uni and then projects afterwards. What made you decide to expand on this one into a full Steam release?
That's a good question.
I think it's mainly because firstly the end result after the initial production period was already quite good, and also the as a team we worked quite well together.
Yeah, I think we all liked each other at least enough to have a good time working together, and so there was that. There was the fact that the game was good, and there was also, good, in accordance to the other stuff we've made, and there was also the fact that it's also one of the most complete games we've made. That's a bit weird when we're saying that because there's so little content, but in itself, the game is really there's voice acting, there's subtitles, there's tons of options you can play with in the settings, tons of graphical options, tons of just gameplay options you can play with, and there were tons of people involved in the project. Even you might have noticed that there's a few images for the NPCs. Those were actually made by an artist, an artist friend, and I was so to me it was also a question of oh, these people have worked really hard, and I'd like to not let that work just go to a void. The void of HIO. So we were oh, let's expand this. Let's make it into something even cooler.
Right, fair enough. Alrighty, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you both again for coming on. I hope you had a great time.
Yeah, it was
thank you.
Really nice being here.
Alright, so down below you'll find links to play the game for yourself, submit your game to be on the show, and or support us and the developers, and if you want to do any shout-outs, we'll put a link in the description down there as well.
Well, if you do play the game on Steam, please, we'd really appreciate if you gave us a review, be it positive or negative. We're really looking for feedback and what players think about the game. So, just don't hesitate to write a review. We'll definitely read it.
Regardless, YouTube, I hope you had a good time, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Nailed it.
First try.